Hello, I'm Anna Berardo, and I'm here from the Whole Body Concept Summit, and I'm here to introduce Linda Clement, a beautiful parenting coach and author of the former La Leche League leader, and she was a softball umpire and occasional doodler. She wrote a few books, The Way and the Power of Mothering, Meditations on Mothering and Balancing the Taoist Way. And she also wrote another book called Lazy Parenting. And I think there's a Lazy Parenting too, if I'm correct, coming out, or Lazier Parenting, right? That's out. She also wrote this incredible manual that I had so much fun reading on the manual your child came with. And it's a really, really funny, great information in there. And that's on her website as well. So welcome, Linda. How are you today?
I am fantastic. The sun is shining and it isn't currently raining on the Canada's wet coast. So it's a nice change.
Good. I'm glad. So tell us just a little bit about yourself and what you're doing and just anything you'd like to kind of share about you.
My new tagline, I invented it one day when I was going to be doing a presentation and it just came out whole onto the page. I'm like, wow, I love that. It made all the hair on my body stand up. I work to help good parents become great parents before they become grandparents. Oh. I've been a parenting coach since 2002. It sort of grew seamlessly out of my La Leche League leadership, where I was helping new moms who wanted to breastfeed their babies. And because my interest has always been far beyond just the early newborn period, I ended up with a group of moms who just kept staying. And they stayed and they stayed and they stayed. And then we had 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds roaring around in this room. And I realized that the new moms coming were a little bit weirded out of the incredible amount of noise and activity going on. So I split the group into two. After that, I sort of had an experienced moms group and a new moms group. And one of the experienced moms came to me and said, could you run a parenting course so my husband can argue with you directly? He's tired of listening to Linda Says. So
I love that. Linda Says.
Yeah, he was the same one who gave me my nickname, actually. She said very sheepishly one day, he always calls you that woman, like you've been talking to that woman again. And I said, I've always wanted to be that woman. That's awesome. And I told another friend that, and she said, if I knew you felt that way about it, I had told you my husband's been talking to that for 10 years. That was fun. The course that I wrote for them was Raising Adults, Not Kids, with the idea that we have enough 4-year-olds walking around in 40-year-old bodies. And it would be a good idea to get some, children to 20 when they're about 20 instead. Our culture isn't very good at raising adults out of kids.
Yeah. So I'm curious to hear, because it's this journey for you. It was kind of personal. What was that moment where self-care, either for you or for your clients, became such an important part? Like, what was that moment that you kind of had that shift?
At the time, I was married to a Canadian Navy sailor, and he was sailing an average of 9 months a year. I had 2 little kids. One was a year old and the other one was 2.5. And I think it's possible to have kids who have more diverse needs than that particular age spread. But I think it would be very difficult to find an age spread that required more of the parents. Like what a toddler needs compared to what an emerging toddler needs are so different. And I was just run ragged. I was exhausted. My parents both worked. Almost all of my friends didn't have kids yet. I was not a super young mom, but I was a young mom. I was 22 when I had my first. And I was just totally burnt out, overwhelmed, and it was probably raining out. And I realized I needed help. I needed somebody else to do some of this adulting thing in the house. I needed company, and I needed to take better care of myself. I needed to eat better. At that point, I was probably drinking 2 liters of Coke a day just to stay awake.
Yeah.
So for some people it might be coffee, but for me it was Coca-Cola, classic Coke, right around the time they came out with that abysmal new Coke. And this is not an advertisement for Coca-Cola. It was not a good thing to do to my body. Yeah. I didn't recover very well from the pregnancy. I had a 10-pound, 6-ounce baby naturally.
Wow.
And it really was very, very difficult physically. And just having, the toddler running around and a baby at the same time was really hard.
Yeah.
And it took me almost a year to realize that I can't do this, actually.
That
And I
moment,
really need to focus back on taking care of my own body, taking care of my sleep needs properly, taking care of myself so that I could take proper care of my kids. And in order to do that, I actually needed help. And I hired help. I
I was
needed,
going to just ask, what did you do? What did you do? I'd love to hear like how you did this.
it is my number one recommendation to anybody. I hired a mother's helper instead of a babysitter, because if I'd hired a babysitter so I could do the cleaning, I'd get ripped off. I didn't want to be the person doing the cleaning. I wanted to be the person hanging out with my kids.
Wow.
So I hired a mother's helper who tidied up the toys and swept the floor and did the dishes and folded the bazillion laundries and pulled it in off the clothesline and put it out on the clothesline. She came 3 afternoons a week for, I think, about 8 months.
Wow.
And because she was 13, you get to pay 13-year-olds whatever you want. There are no rules about that. And she wasn't responsible for children. So I was paying her $5 an hour to take care of the stuff that was on my list. I gave her a list every day. It was called her daily list. And I would start at the top with whatever was driving me nuts. Sometimes it was the windows that needed to be washed because they had 7,000 handprints on them. Or it was the toys all over the living room floor I couldn't deal with anymore. Or it was just the lack of organization in the playroom. And so she'd sort everything. And because it wasn't hers and she was getting a lot of money for a 13-year-old, she was super happy to do almost all of it. She didn't like doing the dishes, but otherwise she would do anything. She would just do it for money, and she'd start at the top of the list, work her way down until she ran out of time, and then go home.
Wow. That's a beautiful twist. Yeah, that's a beautiful twist, because I would say, and including myself, that most people would hire the mother's helper to take care of the child and then do all of the to-do list that we really don't want to do. You want to spend time with your, so that's a valuable piece of advice. I love that piece of advice. So that was kind of when they were little, you really realized that was a pivotal moment for you when you needed to really make that change. And then as they grew, what were some other things that you may have put in like more self-care into your life? I think that one's just brilliant, but if there's anything else that you'd like to share with us about that.
I read a wonderful book, which I recommend all the time, and I don't take any credit for this, by Tony Schwartz and Jim Loehr wrote a book called The Power of Full Engagement. And their argument is, instead of time management, especially in intense things like being the CEO of a multinational or having 3 small children at home, you need to manage your energy far more than you need to manage your time, because it's energy that you're burning up way more than time. Like time is just time. You can't do anything about that. But what you're using up and what is making it so you can't do what you really want to get done in a week is not managing your energy well. So their argument was, you need to take care of yourself throughout the day. You need to make sure that you're rejuvenating your energy early on so that you don't get to the end of the day completely burned out. So you end up with that scorched earth moment where you're screaming your head off because the children are screaming their heads off and everything's chaotic mess. And you're frantically trying to get everything done because what you needed was to be horizontal an hour and a half ago.
Yeah.
Whereas if you start the day with a timer, I always recommend just set a timer on your phone. If you set a timer for 20 minutes after you get up, and at the 20-minute mark, you sit down, put your feet up and give yourself a cup of tea, or stare out the window for a minute, or call a friend for a couple minutes just to say, hey, I was thinking about you and I just wanted to let you know that I'm still alive, or whatever it is that you can do in 2 to 5 minutes that will make it so you have a pause and a break and regenerate some of your energy, and then move on to the next thing with your 20-minute timer set again. You do that all day long and you will get to the end of the day, not burned out, not crazy screaming, losing it out, and able to enjoy those sweet moments last thing at night as your kids are relaxing into sleep.
Wow. That is brilliant also. So every 20 minutes you set a timer from starting from the time you've get up, and every 20 minutes you take 2 to 5 minutes and do something for yourself, is what you're really saying. Whether it's just go for a walk outside, get some fresh air, or make a phone call, but you're not like emptying the dishwasher or
no,
right?
No.
You're really
none of that. No, you can't. You're not allowed to do chores in your rejuvenation period. That is not okay.
Yeah, this is beautiful advice. I love that advice. And then as they even got older, so like teens, I know we were talking for a little bit beforehand about teens, and we think, oh, they can take care of themselves, which they can, but they bring on a whole other set of circumstances. So in terms of self-care as our children progress, or our families progress. So you've given us some really good things for when they were, real little, and now as they're in that school aged bracket, and now let's say, secondary school and beyond. Let's put it that way. Any pieces of advice or any things you'd like to tell us about that?
Well, for people who aren't there yet, I'd like to let them know that if you think your job is over by the time they're 18, you are hallucinating. The fact is, kids need you the very most before they really launch. And they need you as a sense of security and safety. They need you as the person they can check in with about their decisions and to understand themselves more clearly, because nobody knows them better than you do. So at that age, what we really need to get better at is handling our own fears, so that we can listen to what our kids want and need and not freak out and not try to control them and not fling them at the same time. I think there's kind of both ends of the spectrum. Some parents are clinging to their kids and, showing them their baby clothes when they're 18. Kids don't care about their baby clothes when they're 18. And all about how they wish they were still young, which is not a message any 18-year-old I've ever met wanted to hear from anybody.
Yeah.
I wish you were still a baby. I'd love to fix that for you, Mom, but
yeah.
And the other side of it is, oh, you're 18, you're out of the house.
Yeah.
Like you can't fling them at that age. They're novice adults. They still need the mentors and the safety support net. And because we all need a safe social network.
Yeah.
We need to be a core part of that for our kids, or they'll just walk away and we'll never hear from them again. You'll see them from time to time, birth announcements or something. But you can't fling them and say, well, you're 18, that magically makes you capable of being an adult with no help or practice or support, because that's not what happens. They aren't naturally and automatically wise and capable adults at 18 just because the earth went around the sun 18 times since they got to their first breath doesn't mean they're done. And you also can't hold them back. Both of those things are done out of fear, I think.
Yeah.
They're done out of, I can't help you cope. I don't know how to cope and I don't know what to do. So I'm either going to hold you down or I'm going to push you away because I can't handle my own fear.
Yeah.
And that comes back to that, centering yourself in your body and really being okay with feeling how you feel and really taking ownership of it and not sort of blaming the environment.
Yeah.
It's not your 18-year-old's fault you're afraid.
Yeah. It's funny that you say all that. I am parenting teenagers. So I really have had to step back and I learned that I don't want to fix it. Right. So it's like that fixing energy. Right. So we step back. So part of our self-care is also knowing when we need to step back and let them take care of it. And it's self-preservation as well, because then you're not trying to do something that they don't really want you to do. They just want you to be there. It's more like you said, they need you as a foundation. Yeah. So I'm in 100% agreement with that. And I think that's another beautiful thing for parents to realize as their families get older, that they're not toddlers anymore. We can't fix it when they fall down and go bump, right? At that point we were going crazy and our heads were spinning because there was just so much to do and we needed a break. And now, as they've gotten older, we realize, that we just need to be there for them is really it. And that is part of our self-care as well, because I don't know, I might be talking too much, but I feel like if we take on too much, we take their stuff, right? We take on their stuff and then we're spinning again, like we were when they were toddlers.
Yeah. Well, and you see a lot of parents doing that. You see a lot of parents, that Barbara Coloroso says it, at 2.5, they were allowed to pick their pajama color and the book that they had before bed, and they were allowed to pick what bowl they used. And at 13, the answer is do it my way because I'm afraid you're going to make a mess.
Yeah.
Fear, in my view, is the worst thing you can do in a relationship.
Yeah, that's
because fear just causes problems. And if you can sort of get under the fear and just feel it, recognize that you are feeling it, and find the love that is really driving it, then you can approach every problem with more balance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And self-care is all about balance. It's everything you're talking about is about balancing your inner and outer self so that you can meet other people where they need you to be.
Yeah.
Instead of reacting or overreacting or freaking out or hiding under the bed or whatever.
Yeah. And filling yourself up every 20 minutes is a great way to be able to sustain that. I just love that piece of advice. I know you have a free gift for our audience. Would you like to tell us all about it? And,
I do. It's actually related to that 20-minute thing. I wrote quite a long time ago a piece called Can I Go to Club Med? Also known as, or Parents in Stress, also known as Can I Please Go to Club Med? Based on the idea that if you wait 11 and a half months for a 2-week vacation because you have a really, really, really stressful life, that vacation will feel relaxing probably about 4 days in. And then you'll be relaxed for maybe 10 days. And then you'll come home from your vacation and all the stress of traveling and everything and going back to your real life. The leftover feeling of relaxed is about 36 hours after a 2-week vacation. Wow. And then you get to wait another 11 and a half months before you get to be relaxed again. That's just not good management. So that particular article comes with a list of, I think, about 101 different suggestions of what to do in those 2 to 5 minute segments. And with the suggestion that, you know, those are little micro vacations you have every day. There's also a suggestion for turning your phone off. Well, now we have lovely music for us.
That's okay.
There's also nano vacations. The idea that you'll have a period of your life, probably more than once, when 2 minutes is out of the question. You don't have 2 minutes. There isn't 2 minutes. So those ones are 20, 30, 40 second long rejuvenation periods. And for those, I suggest very strongly you do them much more frequently.
Wow. Can you give
like every 10 minutes, do something for 30 seconds instead of waiting 20 minutes.
Wow. Can you give an example of some, like a nano off the top of your head here? I'm sorry. I'm
flip open a photo album.
Oh, yeah.
And look at one photo and remember what was going on then.
Wow.
Close the photo, like just at random, and then close the photo album and carry on.
Wow. What a great idea. That's a great idea. I love that. I love that. And that ties into everything we actually spoke about today, which was really, really exciting and to talk about and stuff. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience? We have a few minutes, a few more minutes.
Let's see. That really is my favorite thing, is to really make sure that you're getting better at managing your energy throughout the day so that you can get to the end of the day and maybe have a bath and a glass of wine and not be so stirred up about all the things that didn't get done. I remember what else I was going to say.
Good.
My other favorite piece of advice, especially for parents right in the middle of the there's always too much to do in the day. There's not enough day and too much to do. I recommend, because we can beat ourselves up about what's missing from our to-do list that we didn't get done, rather than celebrating what we did get done, you know, keeping the kids alive and feeding everybody and, you know, having a house that we live in, like the little things that we totally take for granted when we're busy beating ourselves up about not getting stuff done. I often recommend, especially for new parents, to make a list of what you actually did. Because when you look back on that at the end of the day, it's a really long list. Yeah. And no matter what you didn't get done on your to-do list, that list is long.
Yeah.
And I suggest, when you're feeling particularly bad about yourself and your productivity, that you include things like, I went pee, tick, 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 6 times today, which is, I took care of my physical need 6 times today.
Yeah.
And then you can say, I actually did all of this stuff. I ate this many times. I had this many glasses of water. I kissed this many boo-boos. I helped this many kids pronounce a word. Like, if you write down everything you do in a day, you'll pretty quickly find out why it is that there's things left on your to-do list at the end.
That's another brilliant one, because I would say there were many nights I get into bed and think, I got nothing done today. I got nothing, because it wasn't my to-do list wasn't checked off. And right. Yeah, that's a great one. Thank you for leaving us with that very important piece of information. If anybody would like to check out Linda Clement, she has a beautiful website. Is it called Raising Parents? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, raisingparents.net.
.net. You can go visit her there. We'll have her free gift link on our website, and you'll be able to download that. And I thank you so much, Linda, for coming. You did a great job and gave us such words of wisdom. I love it. I love it. Thank you very, very much. Have a great night.
Absolutely my pleasure. And I am so grateful to be invited to participate in this.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yes, yes. Hope to see you again very soon.
Thank you, Anna.
Bye.